Hello, it's Steve Mills here. I've got a couple of really quick little tips. It's a really short video for you. It's around websites and specifically website marketing. It's often like the dark art, people who are SEO experts will tell you, this is very difficult, it's very complex, leave it to the experts. And there's some truth in the fact that some of it is, reasonably complex and, you need to have an understanding of some technology. But the truth is, there's a lot of things that are fairly obvious and fairly simple to implement. So I'm going to go through three things for you today that you can do to get your website found more easily on Google. And if you think to start with, what does Google want? Well, clearly it wants more money. It's a business and it's all about, creating turnover. And it does that through paid advertising and, various other means. Google has a variety of different products. But fundamentally, what it's about is a massive marketplace. How many people in the world use Google? Heaven knows, I don't know how many, but it's a lot. And Google wants that to remain. So what does it want when you do a search? It wants to present you with the best websites, the most relevant websites, and the websites with the most information. So my number one tip is this. Google loves websites with lots of information on it, lots of content. So that's a really important factor. Now, we see these pages sometimes that are just literally full of, content and, loads and loads of words. And that might be great for Google, but not always great for people like you and I who want to read it and have to read, almost like War and Peace, So there's a compromise there. But remember, Google loves content. It also loves new content, new stuff on your website. I'm sure you can imagine, if we took 100 websites right now, typical websites, how many of them would have hardly changed, if at all, in the last 6 months? What would you think? My opinion would be that probably somewhere around 85% of them have had no or little change. So to get rated high, do you think Google likes websites that have not changed for 5 years, or websites that are changing literally every day with something new on there, or certainly every week? You don't need me to tell you the answer because it's fairly obvious, isn't it? So what we need to do is to create new content. So that's number two. That's the second thing that you need to do. And you can do that lots of ways, by having a blog, by adding pages, by changing pages as well. But, I'd say probably the easiest way is to have a blog. And if you blog, write a blog post a couple of times a week, Google will see that as new content. It'll start crawling your website with its spiders, whatever they are, on a more regular basis and rate your website higher. Really simple. The third one, and this is an important one, and that is Google recognizes titles, what your page is called, as being very, very important. I demonstrated to my results mastery group the other day how easy it would be to get onto the first page on Google under a specific term within just a few days. So I wrote a blog post on my website called Marketing Advice on the Isle of Wight. Why did I do that? Because I'm on the Isle of Wight and I would like to build my reputation here. I've not been here that long, only 18 months, and I've been very, very busy, and I've just started to build my reputation on the island. So I want to try to do that. So what's required in order to do that? Well, what I've done is set up this page, as I've said, called Marketing Advice on the Isle of Wight. Hey presto, 10 days later, and I think we're talking a couple of months ago now, it was on the first page. It was about number 3 or 4, something like that on Google. When I checked yesterday, it was number 2. I've checked again this morning and it's number one. It's number one on Google inside probably a couple of months, 2, 3 months it's taken to go from being nowhere to being number one on Google under marketing advice on the Isle of Wight. So, you know, if you were on the Isle of Wight and you were looking for marketing advice, what would you type in? You might type in marketing advice on the Isle of Wight, and that's where my website would come up, and hopefully you would select me as the expert or specialist, as I'd rather call myself, on providing marketing advice. So if you want to know more, if you're interested in finding out about my results mastery program, or if you'd like access to what I believe is the best marketing software in the world, then please get in touch. You can see on my screen there all my contact details. So get in touch, and I look forward to speaking to you in due course. Thanks very much for listening.